Hi, it's Lil from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Do you dread commissions? Do you do commissions? Do you do any custom work when it comes to furniture? Watch long and I'll tell you why I don't do commissions and how this is a commission. Okay, so this is today's piece. It's a commission. We're going to be talking about commissions throughout today because today is about talking about commissions. I don't do commissions, not very often. I will do a commission if somebody has previously bought off me before or somebody who I think instantly gets it and I'm not, under any pressure to, to do what they're asking me to do. Quite often people write to me and I turn them back. I say I don't want the commission, or I'll make an excuse and say I'm too busy, or all these different things are the reason why I don't do commissions. And I will explain why I don't do commissions as we go through. However, somebody wrote to me recently, a DJ, his name is Colin. Colin is going to be doing a set at the Edinburgh Festival and he wanted something really funky for his decks to go in the top and for the back, because he's going to stand behind this on a platform on the back. That's where he's going to put all his records. His theme, he had me at a DJ, and so these parts here have all been cut out and you'll see as you go it's been completely modified to do what he needs it to do. But his theme was sunny, happy, outdoor picnic, grass, sky, that kind of vibe. And I thought, that sounds really cool. I will take this one. So Colin came to our house and dropped the piece off, and him and Martin carried it over. He's modified it to his specifications because he knows what size all of his equipment is. So there wasn't much. There's been quite a lot of prep done on the top. I filled quite a lot of holes because I don't want those in the top. The drill is basically to decorate the outside, to paint the inside at the top, and to paint the back to tidy it up. The back will just be, I don't know what the back will be yet, but the front we're going to crack on with. Right, Mark's just put some screws in. There's no way, because this isn't an expensive piece of furniture. In fact, it's not even wood, it's laminate over wood. So, and, not being a furniture snob or anything, but it's the way it's been built, it's very difficult. We didn't want these front cabinet doors opening and, having access to that part of the piece. So they've got some screws in them now so that doesn't open. None of these open. So it's all ready to kind of start working on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get down on the ground and I'm going to start running through what I'm going to be throwing at this just paint wise, because this is going to have a lot of layers. And then I think I might take you over to what I've got and show you when I get something like this, what I can string together with that and this. And so we'll see how it all goes, but we'll talk about why I dread commissions and why you shouldn't dread commissions as I do this piece. So you know how I quite often before I apply transfer, I do a lot of distressing underneath to set the scene. There are going to be transfers on here, so I'm basically just doing the same thing I would usually do, but I'm kind of splitting it into two halves, kind of doing it greens at the bottom, blues at the top, because obviously grass, sky, that's the kind of drill that it's going to be very crude before it gets better. So colours I'm using today are olive, which is an olive green. I'm using Amsterdam green, which is the darkest green I'll be using. I'm going to be using Full, which is the chartreusey limey sort of green. I'm going to be using Antibes green. And obviously nothing is good without a little bit of Florence with its double spark. Here we go. If you've been watching me long enough now, you'll know that's coming. Now I think what I'll do is I'm going to swap between the Big Daddy brush because it gets paint down quick and it moves it nicely when it comes to a blend. But I do want it to look blended underneath. I don't want it, when I say blend, I want to mingle as opposed to blend. Blend, I'm not blending away to nothing. I'm leaving the strokes and all of the texture underneath the piece. I am going to be painting over the handles. I asked the lovely Colin if he wanted these removed, but to be honest with you, he's trying to be a bit quirky. This is a piece of furniture. It's his decks for his DJing. And we've decided we're just going to keep these on. And I told him I was just going to paint over them and we'll see whether I bring them back a different colour at the end and make them pop out, kind of tongue-in-cheek. It is a piece of furniture, or whether they just blend back into the furniture. But we'll see as we go. So I think like all good sort of grounding, we're going to need some dark at the bottom So let's just kind of start with the dark at the bottom. And then I think we're just going to have a bit of fun. Like, let's just kind of place some paint down and see where we want this to kind of go. I'll work on this where all the handles are just now. Not cleaning my brush. I'm going in with the furrow. Yeah, something like that. Martin always likes it when I say something like that, don't you, Martin?
What?
Something
I'm
like
thinking about doing,
and I'd just do it on camera as I'm thinking. A little bit of this fleurons. So let's just cheat it up a little bit. Something like that. These are always nice ones to kind of mingle together. And then we're going to go kind of a bit lighter before we get up to... Now, I can know what you're saying. You're thinking, gosh, she's just going ham on this. But this is going to be I don't know what going ham means in other countries. Like, just going a bit crazy with the paint right now, I think is what I'm trying to say. Under that and round here. These don't have a function. They don't open, so it doesn't really matter. Put more of a stripe there. More of this here. Maybe a bit more up here. Right, that's probably as far as I'm going to go, maybe with the greenery. Now, let's just see what we can do with this now. And you know what I'm going...
That one
bottom.
Bottom one on the right.
I was going to get to that off camera, but okay, Martin.
Sorry.
So I've missed there.
Hey, sorry.
Yeah, no, you can just keep me right. Just keeping me on the straight and narrow, Marty. There we go. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do with the Big Daddy brush is I'm literally going to dip it in my water. Yeah, get rid of the excess. I just want some water on my brush just to kind of swirl this around, because right now it looks like really bad camouflage. But I'm going to kind of go up and down it, kind of a little bit of everything. I always think this brush does such a good job at mingling of it together that you can mingle too much really quickly, because I mean, look, it's done quite a nice job of that, and I don't want it to be so contrived, so I'm going to have to kind of put a bit more splodges in it, a bit more of this dark green down here. It is a really good, I mean, I've got to recommend this. Maybe I'm not recommending it. Okay, but I don't...
Is it B&Q special?
No, it's a company that we're not aligning ourselves. Scrap that. It is a good brush though, of course. Right, okay. I'm kind of liking this. I think this is our base coat, because we're going to come and put some more over the top of this. So as a beginning, kind of liking it, right? So I don't have another one of these, but I've got tons of these kinds of brushes. So let's just kind of go, so you can get the whole effect, because I'm going to go away and do this in a minute. So here I've got Provence, which is a sort of lighty blue. I've got duck egg blue, which is a duck eggy blue. I've got some white here, and because I can, let's just get some Frida blue in there, because it's a nice dark one, and I need a paintbrush.
Mixed mat's a wonderful thing.
We say this all the time, Martin. We should just get commission on mixed mats. I think they're very handy. I'm going to use a smaller brush for this, right? So we're going to do our darkest up the top, kind of the opposite way that we kind of started down below, if you know what I mean. Now, as I said, this is just the base coat, so I'm not too worried about coverage at this point. I'm more worried about how it kind of looks. And we'll work out how that's all going to play together in a minute. Some of that in here. Some of that in here. Some of that around here. Oh, that's a bit loose. I might have to tighten that from the other side. Don't want his handles coming off his DJ equipment. Oh. Now, if you're new to my channel, I'm sure you've probably already left, but if you haven't left and you're thinking, I need to see this nightmare as it progresses, then please do stick with it, because this is the process and I trust it. So, you know, I have planned this piece, but I haven't over-planned it, and I think sometimes that's good. I think after being sick, I've kind of reevaluated some of the things, some of my processes which are over-planning. And again, we're just kind of mingling that together. We'll bring that down here. Don't want that too big a build up there, but on the second pass, when this is dry, we will kind of work out where we're going with that. But as a starter, I'm actually quite tough with that. So I'm going to get on. I'm going to do these cupboards. I'm going to take it. I can't take it too far up because my hole filler isn't quite dry. So I'll do the sides. We'll get this dried off, and then we'll get to putting the second lot of colour onto this. Okay, so when you're asked for a commission, somebody says, I want outside, think of summer picnic, think flowers, leaves. You need to then go away, rifle through what you have to see what will all work together. So that's pretty much what I've just done off camera. I have an added bonus that maybe a lot of people don't have, that I can print out decoupage paper. I can get any free source image as long as it's free, or I pay for my images if I want an image. But so I've already looked and printed out some papers with some bees, some toadstools. I thought this reminded me of a picnic blanket, so I printed out a few sheets of that. I've done some ladybirds, maybe some swallows. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to need yet, but I've got these ferns which I'm going to be putting on next. But that's the kind of the decoupage layer is the layer that goes now, because I'm going to be painting over the top of it again. Because it's going to need 2 coats. Everything needs 2 coats of paint, but because it's not a good coat when it's just had one. But also it's better sandwiching your decoupage paper in between that so that you can cover up your transitions, right? So that's the first thing. Flowers. Let's talk what flowers. I went and I looked at all my pieces and parts that I have. And so what kind of flowers do I want? What's going to work with this kind of design? You're going to have to kind of look at what you've got and go, I mean, these are quite pale and we're going with this. Maybe this one. This might be. But I'm actually looking for more. I asked him what he liked to go onto my gone but not forgotten part of my website. So things that I've previously sold. And he liked a piece with the Wanda transfer on. Not Wanda. No. Wallflower. I don't have a lot of wallflower, but I might have some wallflower here. I've got some Wanda, and I've got some pieces and parts of bungalow transfer, which we can maybe get some greenery off. This is what I have in the way of wallflower transfer, which is not a huge amount. I've got half a rose there I might be able to use. So I've got these, which I'll definitely use. But when you're kind of mixing and matching things, you have to kind of try and keep them the same. So these are probably quite ornate for these sort of colours. So I'm going to put these to the side because I've already got in my mind that's not going to work. All right, so that's them gone. I did find, whilst rifling, an Annie Sloan stencil of flowers. So we'll keep that because that's going to be what we're looking for. I've got my leaves. This is my box with just all my leaves in it. Oh, and there's a pumpkin in there, but these are all leaves. So we're going to be needing some of those. So I've got stuff to make. I've got decoupage paper, picnic blankets, leaves. I've got a stencil. I've got some wallflower. I've got some ladybirds. I don't know about the swallows. And I've got paint. So you can already see I'm building up quite an armoury. I also printed off some sunflowers and some daisies because I don't think any summer picnic kind of theme should have that. Are these going to sit beside the sort of the wallflower transfer? Yeah, I think they'll be fine, but I'll fussy cut those. They won't be going on in this layer. I'm hopefully going to get to the ones that I think. So this is Collage de Fleurs. I do want this ivy, and I didn't use this previously. There's a bud that I think will work with the what I've got. That flower will probably work. So I'm going to be using that and this page here, definitely. Now we're getting into what I thought I had and what I was looking for. I think some of those with some of these and that. And I think that this is a different transfer here, and so that's not going to work. And it's different. So we're not going to use that. And I've got that page there. And all the tiny parts that I might have I might have things in here that we could maybe work. I mean, parrots are not going to work in summer picnic. Well, not in the UK because we don't have parrots. Just there's some leaves. We might be able to use those. So just things, pieces and parts that you think, right, let's have a wee look in here. That's quite a nice wee flower. No, we're not really going to go down the lavender route. But I'll have a forage through here. So already you can kind of see what I'm kind of thinking of. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the decoupage paper on. You need to do this part. You need to look at everything cohesively as one. You can't just do one part and then go, oh, right, well, I'll go and look and see what else I've got. It's better before you go ahead to do anything to have what you know in your mind sitting beside you. You don't have to use it, but you know it's there, and it all makes one cohesive design, and that is the important part. You don't want it to be a design of two halves, and you don't want some parts not to go with other parts, so you have to be kind of clever. Not that I'm very often clever, but try. Now, I need a brush from my Mod Podge. Mod Podge, gonna need that. How am I going to be applying this? And I kept my mix back there because we're obviously our next layer is going to be paint, so we're going to need to come back with the paint. So I think these, I thought on both corners, so these ones here. So how am I going to do this? I'm pretty much just going to rip it as close to the edge as I can. Now, because our Made by Marley paper is a little bit more robust, if it was tissue you could put water and it would be easier to do, but this is how I'm choosing to do it, because I know I can blend away some of those edges. So any decoupage paper will complete this kind of look. Now, I know that not everybody's going to be doing a summer picnic themed piece of furniture.
Especially with record decks in it.
Especially with record decks in it. But what you need to do is just take the concepts that I'm talking about and either mute your colours, pare it back a little bit, or add a different element, and then suddenly you've got a whole new furniture design that you can sell. It will work, or it is for a specific room. You know, it's just about taking what I'm saying and going like, well, there's that. Now, I'm doing an awful lot of talking in this part, so I will talk in the next part about commissions, and let's not get onto that in this part because Martin has to edit all of this, so
That's all right.
Sometimes there's an awful lot of talking. Right, so I'm ripping down this edge here. And I'm nearly done. I didn't want to rip this before I came on camera, just so you got an idea of where I was going. Right, let's just have a wee look at positioning. I'm thinking as a starter, this as a sort of starter and beginning layer, I'm going to be doing this on here. So let's just get this open. I'm going to work from the lid because I need a soft cloth just to wipe it with. Preferably a clean one might help. So this is just the same way you'd apply any Made by Marley decoupage paper. It's Made by Marley paper, Made by Marley printed. It's just not one of my designs, but this is exactly how you would do it. So glue, nice and smooth. Give it one last wee smooth over. Take your piece. Present it to your furniture like so. Get your soft cloth and rub it so that there's no wrinkles on your paper. You don't want any telltale signs that this has been stuck on, and we can get rid of any transitions as we go. Now, I think I am pretty happy with that. So I'm going to go and I am going to put the rest of my hair off my brush. Oh, come on. I'm going to put the rest of my ferns on, making sure that they're quite happy. And then we're going to leave them for a bit and paint kind of around them just now, just to make sure the edges, because the edges with Made by Marley paper, on any paper, if you start painting around the edges, what happens is it'll lift, and I don't want too much lift. I want it to dry a little bit before I start painting around it. I must be learning, because normally I haven't got the patience to wait. Right, so I'll go and put these leaves on. I've got another fern as well, just so you can see it. It's just a heavier sort of fern, and I thought maybe I might have this coming down from up here, so we'll put that on there, because it could be a tree coming, it could be a branch of a tree, it could be something coming down this. It's just we've got to think about flow. So flow is important. I should have put this in a blue background, not a green background, but hey, I can fix that. Right, okay, I'm going to go and do it. Okay, so now I'm going to put the picnic blanket on. So I've cut out some strips. Because this is angled and it curves, I'm going to spray it, because anytime you want to do something with a bit of an angle, it's good to kind of soften it up just so it fits in. Plus it's fluted. Fluted, what's another word for that? It's goes down in, you know, what are we calling that, man? You know what I mean.
Fluted.
Fluted.
Yeah.
Routed, that's it, routed. Fluted, I wasn't sure if fluted was a Scottish word. Or whether it was
fluted edge is the correct terminology.
Or whether it was just a me thing, right? Okay, so you get your wet stuff because it's ready to manipulate. I think this is way too wide. I'm going to take another, before I get any further into this, I'm going to take another line of these checks off. Why did I decide, let's just talk positioning, why did I decide to put the picnic blanket along the bottom? Because that's where picnic blankets kind of go. Okay, now the ferns are growing over the top of them, but it's a suggestion, isn't it? It's how to make it work as a design and a concept. So now push it into there first, and then soft cloth time. Now because it's damp, it will sit into all those edges really nice, and then this will be going under here like this. Easiest way to probably get it to go under, some mix. Let's put the glue under there. Back with the loading into there. Let's get this down onto here. I'm going to probably cut it off here because I'm going to be turning a corner, so we'll put it on the way we want to do when it comes to that. So we've got this to here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run over, because this has to, I mean, this is going to have a lot of sealer on it because it's going to be used a lot, but also it's going to be moved around a lot, but this has to not ever come off. Ever. So that's that.
So you'll make sure it doesn't.
I will be making sure that it doesn't come off. Make sure that all your Mod Podge is right in that where they two join together. You've got enough glue down in there. Next, let's just measure out the foot. Now with this one, I'm just going to put this on as a whole and then sand. Matt and I'll give you a quick look at the other side. I've put it on as one piece, and then I'm going to just sand just so I get a nice smooth crisp edge. That's the only reason for doing that. So applying this piece, making sure that it's smoothed out. Oh, that was a bit too much smoothing. Now it's curved again, and I didn't wet this piece because it's a big section, but what I do want to do is, just with my finger, is I want to make sure that I'm finding the edge of it all. I'm going to cut this part here off because it's curving around the corner, so we'll get to that bit in a minute. Back onto there, smooth out your wrinkles and make sure that you've got your edge there so that when it comes to sanding, you can sand it. Yeah, so I'm just going to let that dry. I'm going to continue with this all the way and around the sides. Then I'm going to come back and actually, do you know, I can do the sides off camera in a wee while. What I'll do is I'll continue working on the front. So I'm going to bring my palettes back next, and I'm going to start putting its second coat of colour, getting around all these ferns, and so that while that's drying, I can be putting the picnic blanket on the edges, and then we'll get to a bit of sealer before we do some transfers and things. Okay? Okay, so these two panels here have had the second coat of paint, and now I'm going to show you on camera how I did it on this panel here. Basically, it's just a lot of colours where you think you want them over the top of the colours that you've got, because this is just our canvas coat. It's our base coat. Now we're going to fill it all out. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go round the ferns. So I've got a very messy, muddy looking palette down here on the ground. I'm just going to try and get a sort of green that I want it kind of darker, so I think once I've done this, I'm going to have to get rid of this palette because it is quite messy. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go round here with a smaller
I'll go and
brush.
wash it for you.
I've got another one here, man. I'm multiple mix mats today. Once I get all this part done, the rest should come together pretty quickly. So while I'm painting this, because you can see what I'm doing, I'm going round about this first. Let's just talk about commissions. So why is it I don't do commissions? I don't do commissions for various different reasons, but one of them is when a client comes to you, they come with a certain amount of bias on what they've seen, bias on them not being a furniture artist and not quite knowing what your capacity is, what you can bring to it, what you won't bring to it, what and you can try and I always think I'm kind of like I'm pigeonholing myself into something that I'm not hugely comfortable with. So when are my exceptions? My exceptions are people who have bought off me previously. They'll know what they're getting and they know what kind of vibe I am. I think that one of the reasons why I don't do commissions is to stop me having to do that sort of beige or sort of white furniture. If they want, I'll always point them to somebody else and say, this furniture, because there's a difference. There is a marked difference between furniture art and furniture upcyclers, and sometimes people just want their piece, made new again. They want it to look pretty, they want it all the dings out of it. That's not what they're going to get if they come to me. And I think people, come with a certain expectation that they just want. They'd like Made by Marley to do it, but they're not really kind of like. Then you say, well, what about this? And they go, oh, no, I don't, that's too, or it's got to fit in here, or
what about this colour?
Yeah.
Maybe that's too bright.
And then what happens quite often, I think, and now don't get me wrong, I used to have a purely commission only business when I had the ceramics. It was all commission work. And I didn't mind commissions. It's just that when it comes to furniture, they're very ceramics you can paint again. Furniture is it's a different ball game if you don't like it. But then there's people, so that I think that we all furniture artists fall into certain camps, right? We have the furniture artist who paints their own things and takes commissions. We have furniture artists I've got a friend who purely just works on commissions. That's all she does. Commissions for other people. Does she sometimes want to just go crazy and just bring out all the colours? Yes, she does, but she's very much hamstrung by what the client wants. Is there anything wrong with not taking commissions? I don't think so. If you can make your business work without doing that. If you cannot, and you are only going to bring and entice the business in if you do commissions, then I suggest you do them to begin with. I certainly did a lot more things along like a few years ago than now, and it's not because I've got too big for my boots or anything like that. It's just I realised that in my life I just don't want the hassle of it all. So why did I pick this commission and why am I filming it? Because I normally never film any of my commissions. I don't film them because it's for a client and it's kind of private between the client and they're paying me to do it. But I asked Colin if I could film this because it is a good one to do. But is it right for your business? And I think that is one of the things that when people say to me, and we get emails all the time, Marty, don't we, saying they want to be a furniture artist. Can we give them any helps? Can we give them any tips? And we will impart as much knowledge as we possibly can. However, you have to decide in the beginning, your locality is always quite often a factor. I come from a very rural area, and there's not a huge. I'm not near any cities. It's a kind of there's not a lot of money sloshing around the Scottish borders for furniture.
That's one of the other reasons for the no commissions as well, because a lot of the times people want you to do a commission on their piece of furniture.
And I can't get it to my house to do because I live so far away. I live away from everywhere else. I live miles away from anywhere, really. So there's not really, I don't have a captive market in my area for that kind of thing either, and especially not my sort of my sort of style. My style also, it leaves the borders as well, because it normally goes down south to London or to the big cities, Edinburgh, Glasgow, that kind of thing. So you kind of have to know what your market is. Where is it? Where is your market? I'm still, by the way, I'm talking, but I'm still going around all this. I'm just filling in and getting some colours behind this. I'm going to go a wee bit crazy and get off of this small brush in a minute, because it's an awful lot of surface to paint with a tiny little brush, but there is a little bit of precision needed at this point in time, right? So I'm going to change brushes to slightly bigger ones. So I'm going to add in some florons, because I think it's just going to brighten it all up a little bit. Bring in some sections of this. So yeah, where you are is also a factor. If you live in a big city and you can there's lots of people to advertise, you can get their furniture to you. Yeah, it's a different ball game. For me, it's different. Why else do I not do commissions? Because there is no way on earth, with all the best will in the world, that they do not make your stomach churn. I mean, my stomach's already churning about this one, thinking, will Colin like it? Does it fit the brief? How do you take a brief from a customer? This is how I take a brief. I'll say, tell me more about your style. Tell me, have you got any ideas? I mean, my first emails are just multiple questions to the customer. Then I'll say things like, what room is it going to go in? What do you plan to do with it? Is it for a specific use? Then I'll say, could you please go on to the Gone But Not Forgotten part of my website and have a wee look at furniture that I have done previously? Can you pick me 4 or 5 things out of there that you like, so that I get an idea of what you like? What's your sort of thing? And so when they come back with all these sort of questions answered, I'll also say things like, can you send me a picture of the room it's going to sit in? Because sometimes you can pull things from the room if they're not sure. Now, sometimes you get the best clients in the world, and I do get a lot of these ones where they just say, just do you. And then that way, you can just go away and they give you a sort of colours and you just do it. And they're the best ones. But most people have an idea of what they're looking for. And some people, it's not for you as the furniture artist to persuade a client to take what you want. You have to do what the client wants. The client is the important one, not what your thoughts and opinions are. But the problem is, I'm going to turn around for this part, is
So it's important, this bit.
yeah, clients who come to you want furniture don't know about colour, don't know about pattern, don't know what will look good with that. And so they've seen something and they go, I've seen this and it's got this on it, but I don't want it like that. I would like mine dark green with orange. And you go, whoa, wait a minute. I know what kind of style you're thinking of, but that colour and that colour won't go. But you get into that territory where that's what they really want. But you try and steer people into the direction that you would like them to take, so that it's going to work as a piece. But sometimes people are not wanting to do that. They don't want to be moved. And I've had people ask me to do things and I've thought, well, one client in particular I'm thinking of, and she didn't want this and didn't want that. And she was quite a distance away, and Martin and I she'd bought a lot of furniture off me, but each piece was not what I truly wanted to do. There was an awful lot of peeling and stuff. There was a lot of, and she was more particular about the finish. She wanted everything to be perfect. She wanted it to be super sealed so it never chipped, because she'd had a previous furniture artist and the furniture had chipped. And so she got over that hurdle with me and she realised, yeah, I could seal it and it wasn't going to chip, and she was happy with that. Then she pushed the boundary and she showed me a picture of a redesign by Prima transfer on somebody else's furniture and said, can you do that? I said, no, because that's somebody else's furniture. I can't copy somebody else's work. I could get that transfer and see what I could do with it. But this is what I want, and I'm not going to come copy somebody else's work. So, the limitations, I think, sometimes of they don't know what you can produce. You don't want to offend the client by saying that's not going to work, because if it was just honesty and it was a friend, you go, oh, no, that isn't going to work. But yet the client is the important one. So you kind of do a dance. So I got to the point where to be honest with you, I thought, I'm hanging up my dancing shoes. I'm not dancing anymore to this. So this isn't going to work for me. And has it hurt my business? It's not really. It's not really changed it. It's just the same. Would you say it's hurt the business, Matt, and me not taking commissions?
I think what's happened is over the years you've developed a bit of a sixth sense for the type of customer that is asking you the question.
Well, if you pay furniture for a living, you'll know what Martin's hinting at here.
Yes.
Sometimes
and
people.
Sometimes you're approached by somebody and you can just
who
tell
wants
straight
the
away.
earth, and you know you're
Well,
like.
I was going to say the opposite. They contact you and straight away you know that. Hang on a second, this is interesting.
This is interesting. I get good ones.
What I'm hearing here is that's exponentially interesting. So you'll get into a conversation with them, and there's a backwards forwards, and you go, yeah, and invariably they end up saying, "You do you," you know. But in this kind of groove or in this kind of style, and it's lovely, it's easy.
Yeah, and then you get the
other ones,
the opposite
end of that spectrum, is demanding straight away, and you're like,
and you're thinking, hang on a minute, and can you do this, and can you pick it up, and can it be done by next week, and you know, I think sometimes as well, expectations, you shouldn't sell an expectation to someone. You can tell them what they can expect. But you can't sell it on that. You can't go, well, it's going to be done by this date, this date, this date, this date. Furniture takes time, and not everything dries at the right time. Not everything can be sealed at the right time. So, you know, the expectation I always put is, now Collins, this one is a bit of a rush job because obviously it's for the Edinburgh Festival. But can I just say, what an accolade to say I painted a deck for a DJ for the Edinburgh Festival. And if you're not from Scotland, you know, the Edinburgh Festival is I mean, okay, people in Edinburgh don't like the Edinburgh Festival because it makes their roads congested and everything shuts down. I know this because my brother lives in Edinburgh, but he's got 2 houses, so he can move somewhere else for the time. But yeah, the Edinburgh Festival, I'm going to go up the day while he's playing music for a while. I'm going to go and go and listen to his music and go and see this, and I'll get Martin to film a little bit and we'll ask him what he thinks. We'll see what his reaction is. I might actually get him when he comes back because Colin has been very kind. He does live a distance away. He lives near Edinburgh, and he brought this to me because it was a rush job and he knew I hadn't been well. And he also is going to come back and pick it up. So I'll ask him if we can film his reaction. He might not want that, but it's a bit of an invasion. He said I could film the piece, but he didn't say I could film him. But he seemed quite extroverted.
I think we should go to Edinburgh. We'll film him in Edinburgh as opposed to, you know, in our drive, you know. But
so, yeah, I don't want so much gain up in here. While I've been doing all this talking about, you know, commissions, you can see where I've been going with this. I have been giving it its second coat and just really having a bit of fun. And I just looked at Martin before and said, I could do this all day, every day. And I really could. I love blending paint together. I just love doing it. What you're trying to get now is just lots of interest, because remember, there's going to be quite a lot of transfers and stuff. So you're wanting to bring some interest into your piece. So that's all I'm really kind of doing here. I didn't mean to put that green up in there. This is going to be a very stormy cloud at this side. I'm considering, once I've done it, putting some yellow drips down it, but I mean, I don't know yet. I mean, I'm still really at this sort of stage where I'm just kind of putting it together. So when the clouds I'm stippling, and with the kind of everywhere else, I'm just kind of mottling it up, and I think now this is our kind of, we're going to dry this off. What I'm going to do next off camera, now I haven't started to size, I'm just going to do the sides by myself, because whatever I do on the front, you'll see, you will see, and I'll come back and we'll do the top and everything another day. But for today, I'm going to seal this, I'm going to dry it, I'm going to seal it, and then I'm going to leave it for a bit, and then we're going to work out where our transfers are going to be. I'm not 100% sure whether I might bring out these drawers a little bit with maybe some furl. I mean, let's just have a wee play with this. See it put some on my finger. I might do something like this, but it's not a guaranteed. I think these are the last sort of, once I've got transfers on, I'll have a wee look at that. But this is how it's looking at the moment. And I am quite happy with it. So let's get this dried up, get it sealed. Always, I wouldn't, not always, always, I will tell you to put sealer on before you put your transfer, but I am back in the stable. If I'd been in the house and it'd been sitting and it was bone dry, fine. But this side, these two sides here are dry and they don't feel overtly cold, but the stable has got a little bit of moisture. It's stable. So just so that we don't have any nonsense and I can get on with the job, I'm going to seal it and do it right. Yeah, I'll have a coffee while it's all happening. Right, back to the next part. Okay, so I finished painting it and I sealed it. What I've done now is, it's always good, I do this if I'm using lots of different parts of transfers, and just if I'm using a transfer in general, if I want to have the right sort of kind of positive and negative spaces, I separate it into how many, so I've got, I'm using this as 1, the middle drawer's 2, and over there is 3. So this is my pile that I'm going to be using on this section. That's this section's up on there and the last one's there. I think it's always a really handy way to kind of sort out what you're going to use first. It helps the clarity because it runs throughout it, but also if you've got specific colours and you don't want too many all in the same area, then that way you can separate them up along the piece of stuff. It's a good way to kind of organise yourself. Okay, so I've already put one down. I got a bit carried away. So Marty and I were just talking before, we were talking off camera and we were talking about commissions and we were saying this to each other. One of the main things when people ask me, when they say I want to be a furniture artist, the first thing I always say is, do you have plenty of space? Right? I need the space I've got because I can keep my pieces I paint forever and a day because I've got so much space to keep them where I keep them. I trust my process. So if it takes a year for that special person to fall in love with that piece and buy it, so be it. I've got the space to keep it. I don't repaint over them. If I trusted my process the first time round, that means I did something wrong. Occasionally I'll do that, but not very often. So you get to the point where you want to be a furniture artist. If you don't have any space, then maybe commission work is the way for you to go because you need to have space if you want to do it. You're just painting to sell, and you have to. And we were also saying as well, it's different for me because I have other income streams. Like I've got decoupage paper, I've got stencils coming out. I've got channel membership, different income streams as well. Give you different lots of pots to play with. So if I only had to sell my own work, it was different when I started at the beginning of COVID properly selling. It was sold like hotcakes, couldn't paint enough. But the market slowed down, and then there's a fuel poverty in the UK, and people are saving their money, and it's only a specific buyer that will come along and spend £600 on a piece of furniture. So, that isn't always the way to go either. So we were saying, it's not that I'm, most people would go, well, I can't turn away the money. And we get that too. I just have different streams to enable me to do that. And at the beginning, I did do commissions because it's just what you have to do. I think I've just learned through the time that,
you can afford to pick and choose.
I can afford to be choosy, but it's just, I think I can afford to be choosy. For somebody getting started, and if you don't have the space, it's often the way to go.
Yes,
Yeah, it's just prudent because you have to make an income.
You have to make an income, yes.
I mean, Marty and I
you take the money where the money comes from,
That's right. So we were kind of talking that over as well because, I'm in a very fortunate position and I get it. But if you weren't in a fortunate position, and like when I started as well, and I always tell you this, I didn't start with loads of paint colours. I made my own paint. I didn't start, I did sell quite a lot of furniture for about the first year, just constantly selling furniture. But then what happens is the market slowed down a bit, but it's not something that bothers me. It's kind of peaks and troughs. You can see I'm layering this. I've just discussed this while I'm doing the work. I'm layering this one on top of this one to make it look like, we've got a foreground, a background. You need a middle ground as well, quite often with these sorts of things. So my plan for this is I'm going to put these on in in a pleasing way. So I'll put one more on, and then I'll go away and put the transfers across all the doors, because you don't want to see me do a transfer for that length of time. It's very dull.
I'll just add this to the what we're discussing and things in terms of as you grow, as you if you do have the space, like Nell does.
I've got loads of space, but
there are benefits that come with that in lots of ways. For example, on our website and on our Etsy store and things like that, we have a catalogue of pieces that are available. So if somebody stumbles upon our store, there are things to choose from.
Not all of it's on our website.
But there are things to choose from. There's not just one piece.
No.
So that's part of it as well. But if you're in an apartment and you've only got space for one piece, then you cut your cloth accordingly.
Now, what I want to do on this part here, you're right, Martin. And Martin's actually more businessy minded than I am. So I've got this. This is a decoupage sunflower. Martin lovingly fussy cut these all out for me. He's been at it all the time it's taken me to do this. Martin's been fussy cutting. So I think
that's how slow I am.
No, it's not. I told you it's not about speed. I need to think of good positioning. So I'm thinking I might bring this right up here and put that sunflower there. So it's going to be decoupage. So I'll stick that up there because I want to just do purely transfers first. What have I got next? I mean, I don't have to have everything on it. It doesn't have to be totally busy, but it does have to. I'm looking for something for here, and I might have to pinch something from this side here. I've got a ladybird. I just want to have some sort of nut. It's going to need a nut. What I did was I got a whole pile of leaves. These are all leaves just that I currently had. So I'm looking for a leaf, quite a big one. What I've got here. I'm wondering if I should take some of these and cut these out and put some of these on. Because I want to have this leaf right here, and I'll try and put that ladybird on it. That the rest of that leaf can just go back in the box again and live another day. Now, when you're kind of putting things together, make sure you get rid of the tails. And then this can be coming over because they're going behind. I don't know how it's going to come over. Logically, that doesn't make any sense, but this ladybird's going on here, so I'm just going to make it work. There. Now, so I'm going to put as I said, I'm going to put all of the transfers on first. Then we'll come back and we'll do the decoupage parts. Then we'll come back and we'll do the stamping parts. Then we'll come back and we will put some colour detail and kind of distress it and put any stems that we need to put in it. Now I did, because Martin had to take my son out, so while he was out I did this side. So one side is already completed. Martin, do you want to show them this side so they know where this is going? So that's how that one looks. And it's a mix of stamping, decoupage, bit of everything really. So I think getting the big focal points on first is really important. So that's what I'm actually going to do. So I'll get on and do this. I'm going to put some I'd already made up my mind. I'm going to put some ivy coming. I cut it because I want to try and make it go, but it's got to go over all of these parts here, which, so it's never easy. I just don't make it easy for myself, ever.
The good thing about this piece is none of the drawers and doors have to open.
I know, it's great.
So
yeah,
you don't have to cut anything.
You don't have to worry about anything like that. No, because nothing's ever going to open on it. So it's
literally
good.
just an art piece, isn't it?
It is just an art piece. I was just thinking before, I have no idea how I'm going to stage this out. But anyway, I'll get on and next time you see it, I'll have all the transfers on it. Okay? Okay, we discussed last week how easy it is to kind of run out of steam. I am going to finish the front of this and give it up for the day because I'm pleased with what I've got and I'm getting tired. So, that's that thing that I was saying, just walk away from it when you've had enough. What am I going to do next? Now, remember, we're building this up in layers. So this is the kind of layerage that I think this is the best way to go. So we've got our transfers on. as you can see, there's nothing joined together yet. It's not cohesive. It's just there. It's just been put on. So we need to kind of start working on that. But before I do that, I've done the same thing again. I've put the fussy cut items that Martin lovingly fussy cut me out. I am going to now apply these onto the piece, and I've separated them out onto my doors as like I did before. So I want to have the positioning of these two nice big bright happy sunflowers, maybe one like this and the other one coming down like this. Now don't worry about leaves, we can deal with leaves in a minute, but I want a kind of higher position and a lower position. So let's just kind of, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the sunflower on a mix mat to wipe it with glue. It's just a kind of easier when it's fussy cut sometimes. Well, I'm not making it look easy, but it generally normally is. Right, okay, so it's nice and wet with glue because we've got to go in here now and do all the pieces and parts first of that. Now tuck that in, bring this down and tuck that over that lip, and then worry about getting everything laid down. But it's more important that you get it in here before you do anything else. Then you can go back and you can fix all the parts that are not glued down. So that's one on, yeah. Oh, oh, at least I can show you how to fix things, right? Stick another bit of glue on it and dab it on. And then just kind of rub your finger over it and you'll not see it. I can put a bit of yellow paint on it, but I think it's horrendous. I'm going to have to put some red paint in this transfer here. It got a little bit crackled, so I'll fix that.
Let's see if I can show that.
See these? Can you see
Yep.
these? Yeah, there's cracks there. I've got some red paint ready just to fix that. So we've got one of our sunflowers on. And we want the other one kind of something. Don't want them the same height. I maybe just want one and then maybe just one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Martin. That's exactly what we're going to do. You were so right there.
I was.
You knew
I
exactly.
said that before, didn't I?
Yeah, you were like, no, well, when you go on camera, make sure you get your positioning all right. I don't want your usual malarkey. And I just didn't do it.
No, I know.
Right. So let's do something again. You top part into the groove, a bit like Madonna. Stick it up in there. Stick it into this groove. It all has to go into the grooves before you worry about the rest of it. It's kind of like applying a transfer. And there's lots of ins and outs in this part. So then what you're going to do is you're going to bring your finger and do the underneath part. Then you're going to push this part down and make this part go over here. Now, we're going to have to really... The good thing about this is never going to open. So if this was a piece of furniture, I'd be like, oh, this is going to be a nightmare to cut. But because this hasn't got enough glue on the back. Yeah. I just want to make sure these are never coming off, to be honest with you. No. And fussy cutting's traditional with... Oh, oh dear. Why do you watch me? I guess it's because I don't care, and I'm like, oh well.
It's because everybody has these problems.
You
don't try and hide
We
them.
absolutely do.
Yeah.
So there's no worries there. Right, okay. Now, that looks a little bit messy right now because there's quite a lot of glue in it. You don't want, see that bubble there that air pocket, you want to make sure there's no air in this part here. Now, am I happy with that? Yeah, I am. Now, so we've got those on. Now, Mrs. Ladybug, she's gone here. I have to watch. Martin had quite trouble cutting off the legs, so he said near the end...
That was the bumblebees.
The bumblebees are missing legs because he said, can I just paint them in?
Because it was such a pain getting these legs.
It was challenging for him. And it is challenging. I mean, I'm not mocking you, Martin. I just don't even have the patience to begin doing it. Why do you think Martin did my fussy cutting? I'm fast, but I very quickly lose steam, and I lose the will to do it. And Martin quite likes a task like this, right? So that's my ladybug just kind of hovering down on there. And oh, this one's got legs, Martin. You managed this one's
I think
legs.
I did one with the legs. He hasn't got an antenna or anything though.
All right, well, I'll do that. I'm warming it up or down, up or down. Here, I think, going this sort of direction.
Yeah, he's been to that flower. He's heading to that one.
Yeah, yeah. The trick is with when you're doing bees and things, don't have them sit in it. Doesn't. You need to think about how they actually fly. So they kind of go up and across as opposed to they're flying upwards. That wouldn't make. It's not very good context, and you've got to think about your furniture moving in context. I told you about that before. Bumblebee. Right, now you can see what I'm doing here. I've got a toadstool for down here for this corner, and I've got another bumblebee. Oh, this one's got no legs or antennae, Martin. I really gave up then. We'll put the
They were just so look at me, look how fine they are.
We'll get that.
And those are the big ones.
We'll get them.
The top ones were even thinner. I'm not doing that. I managed to get that one. I was like, I'm not doing that again.
You're making me laugh. Right, okay, well, we'll get to these in a minute.
Like, Lel, can you draw in all the legs and the antennas? Yes, I can. Brilliant. I'm cutting them off.
So I'm going to put the bumblebee and the toadstool in that one, and I've got some daisies, and this is going to go on the underside of here to make that transition look nicer. And I've got some daisies to scatter in that door, and I've got another legless and antenna-less bumblebee, which is maybe going to go up that way. Right, I'll get these Mod Podged onto the furniture, and then we'll be coming back and we will be making sense of putting stems, finishing off with some stamping and a little bit of shading, and we'll be done for today. So, and I think that's a good day's work. Don't you, Martin?
Yeah, I'm loving it.
And I knew you'd like it. It's a really happy one, this one.
Yeah.
His theme was summer, sunshine, outdoor, picnic. He wanted flowers. He wanted leaves. So I think he's got everything in his want list. And I've taken it a step further and added bees, and there's a butterfly.
And it's going to be a DJ's turntable desk for doing gigs.
Yeah.
How awesome is that?
The only thing I'm unsure about, and this is the thing about sometimes you do things, I didn't want the traditional red and white tablecloth. I wished maybe I had done that. But it's done now, and I'm kind of like, is that really horrendous? I don't think it is. Maybe I should have went with the red and white, but I did the paper before I came over and put everything together. So there's another top tip. Bring it all out, because I think maybe the red and white might have looked better, but it doesn't look like it's not working. So I'm all right with it. I'm not going about to start to decoupage and rip this out and decoupage it all over again. I think what I've done is going to be quite adequate. And if anything, it doesn't make it look too heavy. You know, there's not a heaviness in it because it's not too dark and down the bottom. So I suppose there's that. It is quite a heavy piece because he's put all the modifications in it. He's put a lot of extra different things in it. So it is quite heavy, but it doesn't look heavy as in how it looks. Okay, right, I'm going to get on and do this, and I'll be back in a minute and we'll get this bad boy finished. Okay, I'm just going to show you something quickly, how to put a leaf under this when you've already done something like fussy cutting. If you just get a piece of the plastic from the transfer and stick it over the top of your flower, and then it helps if you have a pen that actually writes. And try this one. Whoop. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to give you something to kind of aim for. Right? So you've got this shape here. Yeah? You need to cut the flower shape out. So where you've drawn it, yeah? Like that. And this will give you a template for what I'm about to show you. All these things are all about learning and finding the best way to do it. And sometimes you just have to come up with your own sort of fixes, right? So that's that. So I've got this leaf here and I want to put it behind there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to literally put this onto here like this, hold it. Now it would have been better if my Sharpie had been working, but life's just like that, isn't it? Draw around that again. Yeah. So that you can see the pen marks. I can just about see them. It's because my Sharpie wasn't working. I might cut this wrong because I can't really see where I'm going, but well, fortune favours the bold. Your stomach's making really weird noises. I think this might be kind of right. Let's just kind of put it up against it. Yeah, enough that I can paint around it. Do it with a Sharpie so that you can actually see where you're going with it. And that might help. That gives it a kind of back and fix. I don't really want this part over the top of my knee, so let's just kind of slice and dice that. Woo! Do it with a Sharpie, and then that way you'll get it right. Then just come back and make your transfer stick. It's a good wee way of kind of putting things behind things, because sometimes it's more tricky to put the leaves behind because you don't know where you're going to quite decoupage it. So I think, just make life a bit easier for yourself. If it's not quite perfect, you can paint it with some green. So that's what I think about this. I'm not about the complicated, but I'm about doing it right. So that might be a way that can help you. Right, so all I need to do there is take my dark green into the edges. There's a little bit transfer there, right? I'm going to have to bring in my really manky mix mat in a minute, but before we do that, I want to just take a little bit of this red that I've got here and just fix this crack, because I don't like it. It's a giveaway that it's a transfer. Sorry, Matt was just checking my microphone was on. We're having microphone gate today. That's why I stopped talking. He was patting me. Right. Okay, so that's that fixed. I just didn't like the cracks on that. But while we're doing the fixes, let's just take another brush because I didn't even start with an right amount of brush. And let's just kind of like touch in there with the yellow. Get rid of that. I had a little bit of a moment off camera where I just went a little bit mad, wiped it and it got a little bit kind of disjointed. A little bit black in here. Just to fix it, because you've not going to go all this bother and it look pants. You need to make it look as good as you can. So yeah, that's all my little kind of fixes fixed on that as well. Fix all your little fixes. Oh, remember we had the little leg part kind of. So I'm just putting it in some mocha and then putting some black over the top of it. There we go, away. Now, next thing. But you're all waiting with bated breath for this. Let's give you some little antennae. Oh, Martin, sorry. We're not even at the right place for you to film that.
Right. Okay, on this one.
His legs are kind of going out from behind him like this. Yeah. There we go. That's that. That's another crisis averted. Were you holding your breath there, Martin? Now, next thing we're going to do, I'm going to work on here because it's easier for Martin to film. And what I'm going to do is I have been working with the same horrible, and it's got worse as the day's gone on, mix mat. So I'm just going to move it into the frame and you can see what kind of painter I truly am. There we go now. Isn't that lovely? Now, we need to get all our little fixes done now. The fixes are the important parts. So this leaf, where's it going? It doesn't look like it's going anywhere really. So we have to make it go somewhere. Let's just put a little bit of, what did I just do with that dark? I'm just going to put a little bit of sort of darker paint in that as well, just to kind of fix that. Now, the sunflowers are going to need stems. I'm just going to put a little bit more of this dark green on it, like there's not enough on here. And I think it's going to come from here. Let's just give it, just try and have it go into somewhere where it can, it's camouflaged behind the rest of the flowers, or something like that. Yeah, don't want it too thick. And we need, what's the direction of this one? I think we'll have this one, so we'll say it's about here and it's coming to here. We're going to have to bring this one down a bit to about here, just for the moment. Right, time to check where everything is going. Now this is a lighter green, so we can't just use the same green on this. Right in there. Any other fixes? I can see
Flower under the bump, the
this one here. This one here?
Yeah.
What's missing?
I don't know.
Oh, some white bits, I guess. Don't really have a white. No? Is that what you meant, Matt?
I thought you were looking at the stem as I was saying you didn't need one.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna fix all the stem issues in a minute and just right. So that's the major stems that have to go somewhere. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get some stabs, and let's start giving this places where things are going. And this is why I've layered it, so that we can, you know, clearly kind of like. Now I don't want to have all of this stamped. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take it down on here. You know what I think about stamping it on? It has to be a hard surface, so let's just have a wee look here and start putting some of this greenery down the bottom. And all I'm going to really do now is kind of load it up with lots of different greenery. I'm probably going to use like the stamp. I just don't want it to touch off the picnic basket part at the bottom right now. Now this is where you can be a little bit more clever with your colours. You don't have to use the same. You don't have to use the same colours. You know, because I mean this is turquoise, so. Oh, but it didn't really show up. That was rubbish. Try that again.
That was rubbish.
That was rubbish. Try this one. I might not. I might actually have to go dark down the bottom here, because I think that's maybe the only way it's gonna. Try going over it and see what happens. Oh, that was still a bit of an epic fail, if I'm honest. It was very. It's still there. What I did with the sides was I had things like this coming in from the sides. So if we took, but we don't need much of it. Maybe just that's enough. And did something like, don't have that touching up against the rest. We don't want that. I don't like the way I removed that there. It's just a disaster. Right, I'm going in with this chartreuse sort of colour and see what on this stamp. I really want to try and get up in here done. It's kind of awkward, but it's just the way it is. I'm going to just put a little bit of black in this green here, because I want it really quite dark, because obviously you can see it's not showing up down the bottom, and this is my way to kind of camouflage it all away. So I really need to kind of like think about what I'm doing here. Right, so let's try. This is a very dark green, so yeah, I'll do one up and under this handle here. I think you get the gist of what I'm actually doing here. I'm just stamping so that I can do things like then get a brush and do And this is just kind of like mixing and matching your colours to kind of fill out where, it's got to come from somewhere. I always say the same thing. So where's it coming from? Where's it going to? Let's just do some of this here. Because the stamps are too big for some of these areas. So I'm going to be coming and putting this ochre colour around the edges. So I'm not too worried about that, right? I did some of this kind of in the mix. Maybe a dark one, yeah. I'm going to change brushes in a minute to skip brush because this is way too thick. Up under the handle. Where's my skip brush? Here it is. No, it's not. Here it is. There we go. Paint on that. Give a bit of highlight. You can see what I'm doing now. Now all I'm doing is I'm just painting in all of the detail that makes things, look like they're moving, that they're all attached. This one here, Matt, and you wanted a stem on that one. So there we go, got a stem. And don't know quite what's going on with this big bundle here. Let's just kind of do something running off it because I'm not quite sure where that's going, but let's give this a bit more sort of bouginess with some greenery. Now you don't need to go crazy at this point. It's just enough to kind of, just to set the scene. Add all your greens together, make it move, give it movement, and give it some interest. And that probably, can you think of anywhere else, Matt, where it thinks you're slightly further back than I am?
Yeah.
I think that's maybe all we kind of want on that. Now I'm going to get on and I'm going to do it on the other panels. And then what I did, just so you know what I'm about to do next, let me get a brush that I'm going to like. This one probably. I've got this ochre colour here. It's the ochre acrylic that I quite often use. And I thought this would be really good for kind of framing it out, just giving it a little bit of contrast. So what I'm going to do is my usual sort of kind of distressy sort of around the edges kind of malarkey. I'm not taking a palette knife to it. I'm just kind of like smooshing it in and giving it something roundabout. It's just kind of highlighting. It's not really, I don't want to go too far into this window because we've still got the greenery and everything to do, but I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of, around the edges, all the kind of corners, giving it a little bit more something. These things kind of help as well because remember, people are going to be standing back for this. And I was just saying to Martin, I didn't sand back my transfers like I would quite often do to make them look realistic because this is a show. So you have to think about the people a wee bit further back. You need to be able to see it from a distance. So, I've got a bit heavy there, but I can get a brush and just smoosh that out a bit because you don't want it too heavy. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just picking the parts that I'm wanting to do this sort of ochre in. I'm not going to do too much of this either, to be honest with you. It's just enough. We'll maybe do some at the top here because if not, what are we doing? Why am I doing the ochre? Because I thought it is quite sunny and there's no sunshine, and I thought of putting a sun in it and I thought that's just going to waste it in it, and you can go too far and it end up looking a little bit cheesy. I'm just telling you, ask me how I know. You don't want that. So there, or cartoony. You don't want the cartoon look. Do you, Martin? No, you don't. Thought you were going to say something there like, oh yeah, I've done that before. Right, okay. It's starting to have movement and I'm starting to really like it. So I'm going to go on and do these two now with what I've done there. Make sure I've got all my stems in. make sure I've got some movement with some leaves, put my walker on, and I'm going to call it quits for today, and tomorrow we'll come back tomorrow night and we'll do a little bit more. Okay, so I completely finished the front. I've not been back for a couple of days. The sides are done. I'll get back to show you them, you know, in the big reveal. What happened to the top was I just gave it 2 coats of Provence on the inside, and now what I'm going to do is in the top and in the apertures where the decks are going to go, I'm going to do sort of clouds just to kind of finish it off. The back I have also inside where the records are going to be, I've already given that 2 coats of Provence as well, and the paper that I used, the picnic blanket paper, I'm going to decoupage into the bottom, and I'll come back and show you that when I do it. For the sake of getting this video finished, I'm going to do 2 coats of French Chic top coat sealer, but what I'm going to do before it goes to the client is give it 2 coats on top of that of yacht varnish, so that it's extra specially durable, because it's going to have to be moved in and out of events. It's going to get knocked, it's going to get banged, it's going to be jostled around, and I want the design to have longevity, but I also want the paintwork to stay as good as it can. So let's get on and get these clouds. So up here I've a mixed mat. What I've done is I've got Vera Blue, which is a nice blue, bright blue, veering towards maybe more of a purpley blue. I've got Giverny, which is a sort of kind of a lighter blue. I've got a white, and I have a duck egg blue. That's the sort of blues. So I just kind of want to mix it all together to make a sort of kind of sky, and it's pretty much the same deal as I was doing in the front really, but I'm just kind of making sure the kind of darker areas go in here. So I need to kind of lighten this out because I want it to match the front of the piece. So maybe some more clouds here, and I'm really just going to kind of play around with this and make sure that I kind of get something that's quite nice on the top. I've decided I don't want too much light, the darker blue in it, so let's kind of mix and mingle more. Now I only need to do this once because it's had 2 coats of paint, and this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get on and I am going to do the clouds. I think what my process is, because I've just thought about this, is I'm going to make this kind of mingle my blues and then come back and put my whites in when it's a little bit drier. I think that's the way to go with this process. Why did I do Florence underneath? Because you're not really going to see it much. I just did it because it was a good sort of base coat for me really, and I had plenty of that colour, so that's why. Okay, I'll get on and do this. Okay, so I carried the cloudy sky on the top and in here and in here as well, actually, when you'll know when I flip it round, it's all been done, so that when it's sealed, you can slip these record decks into there and it's all quite tidy, cohesive, and it works nicely. It's just the little finishers. So what we're going to do now is we're going to stop the camera, flip this round, and you'll see the other side. Now the other side is ugly because the back's been cut out of it for these records and everything, but I've made the best of what I can. So we're going to flip it round now. I'm going to do a bit of a paint job inside. It's had 2 coats of the Provence that I had on the top, so it's already got a base coat. I'm going to put some decoupage paper on the bottom and maybe just paint some leaves, just to kind of, I don't know, somebody's standing behind it. I want it to at least look semi good as opposed to just a bland bit of cut out furniture. So we'll flip it around. Okay, so from the back, as I said, it's not pretty, but it's practical for what his job is. I'm going to be putting the same picnic cloth decoupage on the bottoms. So I just sat those there so you can see these are going to go on the bottoms. It's not great lighting to show you, but what literally I've got a chamoiserie brush, which is quite a big wide one, and I've got kind of multiple greens on it. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint some leaves, some sort of movement inside it, and that's literally all I'm going to do with lots of different shades of the greens, just to kind of finish it off, make it feel cohesive. Because if the picnic blanket's on the bottom, then these are our greens, our grass. I'll do slightly more of a sort of green. It doesn't matter if I touch the bottom because the paper's going down into it, and I've got like Giverny, Florence and Racing Green. These are my greens that I'm using. And I quite like the chinoiserie brushes for this because it really does like sort of kind of gives really nice movement when you're doing things like this. And if I have, because I'm going to have to consult my transfers, if I have any transfers that I think that I could maybe put a couple in, I will. I have a couple of swallows that I might go onto the top that we cut out. And I think I've got a toadstool left. So if I've got anything, I'll just do that. But I'm just kind of, like, I'm just making it look like it's all going to work together. So I'm going to get on. I'm going to do all my greenery, and I'll probably just glue down my decoupage paper because, I mean, you see me do decoupage all the time. And I think the next time you see this lovely, it'll be reveal time. Okay, so that's how the back looks now. I've put the grass, I've put a few sort of flowers in it, nothing much, a butterfly, and put the picnic blanket on the bottom. So now I'm going to turn it around and I am going to seal it, and we'll get to the staging. And she's done. This was a difficult piece to stage because there's great big gaps in the top. So I've just got some plants from my utility room and just put them in the holes. Was this difficult to do? Absolutely not. It's just a sort of kind of building it up in layers. It's got a kind of mixed media almost with the decoupage and the transfers and the paint. So just like remembering what layer goes in what time kind of thing and how it's all going to move. I've really enjoyed doing this one. The client has seen it and Colin loves it. So we're all good there. Commissions. What can I finish off? What pearls of wisdom do I have? I think by the end of the video, the more I mulled it over, I think commissions has to be something that suits you and suits your business, suits your locality, and suits what type of person you are and how you feel about it and meeting the client's needs. So I really do, although I don't really very often do commissions, I think that it's you do you exercise. So I've been let off from Made by Marley. This is Colin's decks for his DJ station.
Set, yeah.
I don't know what you call them. I'm not that hip. For the Edinburgh Festival, and hopefully near the Edinburgh Festival we'll go and see and get a little bit of video footage or put it onto the end of the video for you. So Martin, do you have anything to impart about this week?
I say it every week, but
he does like this one.
This is a stonker. This is a cracker, this one.
He likes the cheerfulness of this.
I do, yeah.
Oh, his handles are sticking up in the air. Anyway, as I said, it's now going to get some really heavy duty yacht varnish just because it's going to have a bit of a life, this piece of furniture. So, and it is heavy, so he's got to get it in and out of events. So I hope he's got a pal that can help him lift it. But anyway, that's that for this week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away. To the groove and the light that flickers. We get lost in the crowd, it's getting thicker. We get away from the drinks and chatter. Haven't said a word, but it doesn't matter. Feel the air get thinner. I'm standing in a blurry dream. No one else can see us. Live your life within the moment. And don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us the air get thinner. I'm standing in a blurry dream. No one else can see us. So let us dance this night away.